Have you guys ever been so down bad after losing a ranked game that you decide to climb up a mountain just to take all your frustrations out on a tree? No? Yeah, me neither. But this menace right here is built different and is about to do the unthinkable. After getting destroyed in his placement matches, he decides to clap a tree to avenge his pride. However, the crazy thing is our boy Lee Sion actually ends up finding a tree looking like Shakira, as its hips ain't lying. And just like we all expected, our boy whips out some foam to slip inside the tree, as it would be too dangerous to get any splinters on something as big as a person's battering ram. What's even crazier is the fact that the tree's opening coincides with what looks like the real deal. As if this entire thing is either alive or a perfect tree sculpted by a master artist on Pinterest. Regardless, right before Lee decides to get the Super Suzy show on the road, he realizes it's hard to get the banana plantation up and running when it's super cold on top of a mountain. So he decides to pop in some AirPods to listen in on westernized pieces of sassy culture. Now with him listening to a white woman and black man doing some rice cake destroying, he decides to cosplay old man Skrillex as he starts going bangarang. After the beat drops, our boy goes even crazier than normal as he begins using his hands to channel his inner tens, allowing him to jet dash forward past the point of no return, as his dash is stuck on cooldown. Bonus: later, he takes a page out of Sword Art Online, as Lee starts dreaming of using augmented reality to destroy even more trees without leaving his house. After finishing his epic roleplay event from Goldshire in World of Warcraft, it dawned on Lee that he actually went through and let his intrusive thoughts win. I mean, what kind of person would go toe-to-toe with a tree even if it looks like a person? Phew. But at least our boy is a nice guy as he cleans up after himself. But after taking a look at his fill-up bag, it looks like our boy has finally released all of his pent-up anger from his red carpet of losses in his match history. Nonetheless, as Lee leaves to go home and get back to his radiant and challenger grind, the tree begins to look like it's seeping some water from the very place Lee attacked with all his might. Upon arriving back home, Lee found a girl looking like some kind of elf from another world, screaming and yelling at him for no reason. The girl then starts to command our boy to take responsibility, but she's just met with a confused and profound face from Lee, as our boy is starting to think he exploded too hard. But then, eventually, Lee finds out that the elf isn't wasting time screwing around. Our boy then learns from the elf-like being that he violated the #1 rule in all of anime. Never ring and ding a tree like a psychopath, since it could literally be someone's mom from another world. Now that Lee has discovered the tree he had chose that night was somehow someone's mom, suddenly the girl smirks, causing a bright purple flash to fully engulf our boy. Lee loses track of his movement as everything around him begins to spin faster than his pronouns. Shortly after, the world stops spinning. Lee starts losing consciousness as he watches himself fall into some kind of strange dimension. Upon waking up in another world, he is greeted by a game-like system congratulating him for becoming the first ever husband candidate of the stupid single tree. After making sure he isn't dreaming, he realizes he's screwed up, as the one boy who destroyed a tree and got reincarnated into another world. It's then revealed that there are multiple world trees across the universe, and their sole purpose is to protect and nurture planets using their roots. Unfortunately for Lee, he ended up making contact with a young world tree that wanted to make Earth its home, since Earth didn't have a world tree to protect and nurture it. The problem? Our boy smashed the only tree willing to make Earth its home. So yeah, our boy screwed up bad. After pausing a moment to take in all the information, our boy starts maniacally laughing as he thinks he can finally be the main character of his life, and it's all thanks to a random tree he found on a mountain. He needs to get out ASAP because his clan on Clash of Clans needs him to 3-star the last base. He weeps, knowing his clan will kick him out after missing his war attacks. A notification interrupts his sadness, claiming that the World Tree of Purity is a super shy. After a while, he gets super agitated that the notification keeps popping up, as the World Tree of Purity is using the game system to talk to him. Eventually, Lee's had enough of the World Tree communicating with him, so he starts attacking the system's modifications to the best of his abilities while commanding her to bring him back to his original world. Unfortunately for Lee, the world tree claps back by refusing to send him back to Earth. Instead, she gives him a quest to prove he's worthy of being a husband candidate. If he fails to complete it, she warns him. The penalty will be death. Upon hearing her last words, our boy decides to play ball like a true wimp. He asks what exactly he must do to complete his quest, and within the blink of an eye, Lee finds himself washing ashore on an island with a humongous sandcastle before him, mysteriously named the Academy. His task is now to go inside and graduate within 120 days, or else he will be fed to the neighboring tribal chieftain and turned into a very mystical and yummy soup. But if our boy is actually able to complete the mission, he will gain the quest reward of the world tree's Susie love, while also getting the added benefit of being able to live on. However, we discover he wasn't actually teleported to a deserted island. It was all just Lee dreaming about what's about to happen to him if he fails the mission. He snaps back to reality and begins researching the new world he's in. He then finds out that this brand new world is basically Earth combined with fantasy game elements. Nevertheless, the world tree interrupts him again and forces him to create his character in this new world, since all his stats will reflect what he looks like on the planet. Our boy gets super excited at the thought of allocating all his skill points, since on Earth all he ever did was game, so at least he has some gaming expertise to help guide him through. But then, it turns out he must still be an iron player. Bro decides to sacrifice all of his charm points, just so he can dump them into luck, causing the world tree to start weeping and shaking her head furiously. Against her wishes, Lee confirms his new abilities by slamming the confirmation button, causing a blinding light to shine through the sky and straight into his body. He then starts getting infused with an otherworldly power as lightning begins to surge through his entire body and out into the surroundings. After being infused with lightning, and once the traces finally fade away, he begins feeling exhausted. Nonetheless, he turns back towards the world tree, only to find her absolutely sobbing about his new look. Lee hasn't yet realized that everyone else on the planet is only able to see his super ugly and overweight brand new version of himself. This doesn't bother our Chad, though. He tells the world tree not to worry, since he can just work out every day starting tomorrow to lose all the weight he's apparently gained. After all, he's got 120 days before the husbando exams. However, on his 13th day of constantly working out in this brand new world, he starts breaking down, because he's making no progress losing fat. He's basically like the artist being too lazy to draw an overweight version of him. But Lee knows he can't give up now, since he wants to go back to the real world to watch his beloved Lakers win the championship again. That thought alone is enough to hype him back up. As he continues his job for a nearby university, he passes by two girls and overhears them making fun of his appearance, claiming he's even uglier than the troll from Dark and Darker. Lee gets so riled up that he actually turns into an ugly monkey instead. This causes him to finally lash out and start yelling at the girls. He even goes as far as to chase them down, proving our boy has some serious anger management issues. But as he chases after the girls who were mocking him earlier, all his commotion and loudness alert a nearby goddess who is busy quenching her thirst with some mountain dew. Turns out this girl isn't just beautiful. She's stacked with the pyramids of Giza and somehow managed to stick an entire oven below the ship's deck that could rival Nicki Minaj. Unluckily for our boy, though, when she stops and looks at him, she starts profusely sweating at the sight of the ugliest man alive and immediately vomits. Meanwhile, back to the action, our boy is too slow and doesn't have enough stamina to continue chasing. He ends up picking up a rock like a true monkey, threatening them that they shouldn't make fun of ugly people because there's nothing wrong with having low charm. Luckily, a security officer is able to apprehend our boy before he gets even more rowdy. She tells him that being loud in public spaces is strictly prohibited, warning Lee that this is the last warning she will ever give him. We then discover he's actually been caught doing the same thing at least 6 times in the past week. So our boy apologizes and promises to never step foot in the park again. The lady lets him go, feeling pity for Lee's life, basically handing him a straight 0 out of 10 on the attractiveness scale. But as soon as he leaves the premises of the park, some girl walks by and starts insulting him, calling him a dinosaur. Our boy has to try his hardest to calm down. Regardless, he decides it's time to finally amp up his workouts. After all, he can't even call it a working out if all he does is jog around without lifting any weights. But just as he finishes signing up for a gym membership, he gets instantly rejected. The guy refuses him membership for being so unattractive that Lee has already broken the unspoken rule of never, ever being disgusting or disrespectful toward other gym members. Our boy then pleads his case, telling the man he's not violating anything, and he's not that ugly. But the guy claps back by handing him a mirror. Upon looking into the mirror, Leah transforms into Snow White, only for the mirror to instantly crack under the sheer sight of his face, even though he can't actually see what he looks like, since he only sees his previous self. The mirror doesn't lie. Nonetheless, he heads back home only to find himself being followed by numerous TV stations as he becomes the hot topic of the planet, for being the man who broke a mirror with his face. He's so ugly now, even though the artist is too lazy to show his transformation. However, the next day, he picks himself back up. This hardcore gamer knows he's just got to have that Sigma grind set to make sure he can come out of this universe alive. Fast forward a month later, our boy has actually pulled off the impossible. Man went from Nico Avocado's weight bracket to joining Chris from Mr. Beast, trimming down to a respectable 99 kilograms. From mukbang disaster to glow-up king. To celebrate Lee's achievement, the World Tree decides to bless him. She unlocks a shop where he can earn currency every time he makes someone happy. But here's where it gets wild. Lee accidentally makes the goddess of purity a little too happy with his siege-battering ram down on Earth, and boom, man gets showered with a boatload of currency. Bro literally turned divine cheeks into a paycheck. Now, instead of being smart with this once-in-a-lifetime blessing, our guy pulls a full-on gacha addict moment. Think Honkai impact levels of gambling. He dumps all his earnings into a spinning wheel, praying for jackpot glory. And guess what? Miraculously, he doesn't walk away with a pile of trash. He actually wins something useful, a mask that looks like Metapod. Yeah, straight Pokemon drip. But here's the kicker. It boosts his attractiveness by 2 points, and the longer he wears it, the closer he gets to turning into a Ray's Godmaster 9000. After burning through his fortune and stacking up 1,000,000 useless water bottles. Lee proudly shows us what it's like to live with an IQ lower than room temperature. Some people lose money in crypto. He just speedruns poverty in a fantasy world. Still, man's feeling himself. He straps on his Metapod mask and heads to a nearby mall to cop some fresh clothes to match his new body. The only problem, everything is expensive AF, and our broke protagonist realizes he already fumbled his starter cash bag. While he's standing there debating if he should just blow his last coins on some fire Roblox skins, he overhears the news. A famous holy tree has just arrived at the mall. Bored of the World Tree always hiding her true face, Lee decides to check out the hype. And oh boy, when he sees her, man is mesmerized. This holy tree is packing honkas so divine they could rewrite religious texts. All eyes are locked on her as she twirls like a babe, knowing damn well her rice cakes are bouncing hotter than bread fresh out the oven. If physics had shame, it would have left the building. Then it happens. While Lee is camouflaged in the crowd, the holy tree suddenly locks eyes with him. Not a passing glance, not an accidental flick. She holds it for more than a second. And right there, you just know this tree's about to uproot his whole life. With just a single 2-second stare, our boy loses his battle in the month of November as his chug-chug machine goes full overdrive, and boom, he accidentally explodes like a busted soda can. He collapses to his knees, legs trembling like they just skipped leg day for eternity, as his own earthquake rattles him to the core. But here's the twist. Our clueless boy doesn't even realize Miss Holy Tree has slowly walked up right in front of him. And then, out of nowhere, she calls him out. In front of everyone. Bro just got hit with a public notice me, senpai moment, but instead of roasting him, she flips the script, telling Lee she knows he's got something good hidden beneath. And then, oh boy. She starts showing off her tree bark right there, in public. And let me tell you, this ain't your average backyard oak. Nah, this bark is so smooth, so polished, it makes earth trees look like dollar store furniture. Forget November, my man just lost NN on the hardest difficulty. Back to the action. Our boy finds himself sitting on the top floor of the Holy Tree headquarters, utterly confused about how he got here, or why he's even here in the first place. Then, with just a blink of an eye, the Holy Tree appears right in front of him, like she activated her teleportation devil fruit. And here's the thing, she doesn't say a word, she just stares. That's it. And somehow, that silent eye contact alone starts uploading malware into Lee's brain, pulling out a goofy smile while she preps her Suzy Nation attack combo. Without warning, she slams her desk with enough force to make Genshin servers crash, snapping Lee out of his daydream where he was imagining all kinds of down-bad DLC expansions. But before our boy can even boot up his antivirus, she closes the distance with her Suzy Jutsu powers, leaving him completely stun-locked. His lungs fail him so hard he starts mentally reaching for his asthma inhaler, cause this situation is way too much cardio for a man who just stopped being 100 gang. And then she goes full demon mode, parting his Red Sea of pants like Moses without hesitation. Lee is straight up malfunctioning. Lynn's straight up malfunctioning. Meanwhile, she laughs like a Netflix psycho villain and roasts him. Why has your banana tree plantation suddenly overgrown its plot size? Our boy, panicking, throws out every excuse in the book, stuttering that the plantation just can't be controlled once it goes wild. But the Holy Tree ain't letting up. She channels even more of her unholy power, pressing on the defense until Lee's court is wide open. She's already right under the basket, smirking, asking why he's being so shy. Eventually, though, she stops cosplaying as the Splash Brother of Lust, since she doesn't want to completely drain their basketball. Instead, she switches gears and asks the most casual question ever. So, what's your name? Lee finally reveals his true, real name, thinking it's no big deal. But the Holy Tree places her hand softly on his back, and in a surprisingly gentle tone, tells him there are many unique people like him in this world. For a brief second, it feels wholesome. But nah. Seconds later, she transforms into her true demonic form, revealing she's only been after his secret Dragon Balls, the rare ones he pulled from the Gacha earlier. At first, Lee thought they were useless, since the fine print clearly said, "For girls only." But now he realizes he's holding the one thing she desperately wants. She orders him to hand them over immediately, but Lee hesitates. He was expecting at least a massive bag of cash or some god-tier loot in exchange for something so rare. Instead, he refuses, deciding to finally stand his ground. Curious, he asks why the arboreal balls are so important that she went through all this trouble just to bring him here. And that's when she drops the lore bomb. For tree people, the legendary balls are a key accelerant for growth, something that can instantly transform a baby sapling into a full-grown adult tree. She needs them to raise her own royal seedlings, future heirs of the royal oak family. Hearing this, something inside Lee awakens. He temporarily evolves into a Chad, realizing the tree people all come from the seed of his world tree. Which means, if he marries the world tree of purity, he could technically rice cake smash all the other trees and be crowned as the ultimate tree daddy of them all. For a moment, the power fantasy has him sweating like he's about to face Elden Ring's hardest boss. No. But reality slaps him back down quick, because pulling that off would mean standing up against the royal family itself. Before he can overthink it, the Holy Tree cuts in with a snarky remark, reminding him to think carefully about his choices. And that's the turning point. Our boy decides he can't keep being a pushover like he was back on Earth. It's time to unlock that main character energy. As he now has the perfect opportunity to turn his life around, our boy decides it's time to transform into Faker, the best pro gamer of all time. And just like his idol, He places the red buff perfectly on the table with insane mechanical precision, instantly enticing the holy tree to step forward and claim her prize. But just as she reaches out, he baits her last second, snatching the buff back like a true ranked demon and ordering her to wait. To sell it even harder, he activates his voice changer, dropping his tone deeper than Corp's husband, and boldly declares that he actually has 2 more at home. Not only that, but he's planning to reclaim all 7 Dragon Balls to summon forth the Eternal Dragon itself. The Holy Tree immediately calls him an idiot, roasting him for revealing way too much. She mocks him, saying he basically just signed his own death certificate, because now she'll steal them all away like the savage she is. According to her, he could have walked away only losing 1 arboreal ball, but nope, our boy just leaked his entire ranked strat. Her non-stop insults push Lee over the edge, his face burning red with rage as the anger builds inside him like a tilted league player on a 5-game losing streak. But just as he's about to snap, his fury is interrupted by a new subquest alert from the World Tree. Make the Holy Tree start leaking like a broken faucet ASAP, or face imminent death. Reading that, Lee goes pale like he just got hit with the blue screen of death. Even the Holy Tree notices something's wrong and looks a little worried. Still, he knows there's no running from this mission. The only logical strategy would be to sprint to the nearest bathroom, do a premature explosion reset, and then return, ready for battle. But nah, his anger management issues suddenly activate. Instead of beelining it to the bathroom, he slams the door shut, locks it, and turns around with the cold glare of a tilted final boss. Enough was enough. Fueled by pure rage, Lee channels his inner Susie Beta, scoops up the Holy Tree, and slams her onto the desk beside them. Without hesitation, he squares up, unleashing his battering ram and taking over her mountains like it's a medieval siege. And just like that, the legendary clapping war begins. The clash is so intense it feels like a myth straight out of gamer folklore. As the procedure of baking continues, Lee takes it one step further. He rips off his mask,